Joining us right now by Zoom chat is Jim Havens, the host of a radio show called The Simple Truth on the Station of the Cross. Good morning to you, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Great to be with you.
Yeah, praise be to God. It's good to see you again. I'm glad you're feeling better these days. Yeah, I know you went through a sick spell there, but let's talk about Florida. You're from Florida, right? You're from the Naples area of Florida?
Yeah, we actually live near Fort Myers, actually, just on the outskirts of Fort Myers.
And how did Fort Myers fare in this latest hurricane?
Poorly, yeah, not well. Took the direct hit from Hurricane Ian there. It seemed like it was maybe going to go north to Tampa. That's what everybody was looking at from the models. And then the morning of, basically, when it hit landfall, it took a right turn that was a bit unexpected and hit Fort Myers Beach directly head on into Lee County. Then it moved north and northeast. But yeah, thanks be to God. I think a lot of people fared a lot better than they could have. It could have been much, much worse if it would have been a direct hit on Tampa. That would have been even more severe. They were not prepared. They're the worst place in all of U.S. in terms of potential storm surge. But Fort Myers Beach completely decimated into the Gulf Coast and Lee County, even down into Collier County, Naples area. Lots of flooding. Loss of life, and then up into Sarasota area and then across the state. So, yeah, it's a mess. As a lot of the folks in Texas who are listening know, these hurricanes are no joke, and a big problem that we have to be aware of, and another opportunity to love God and love neighbor in the midst of it all.
Yeah, amen, for sure. That, it's interesting because during natural disasters, I think that's when we see people act more charitable. I mean, they tend to be very good about helping their neighbors in need. They tend to overcome their prejudices and biases. We all do in those circumstances. And I was very blessed by the help of strangers during Hurricane Harvey, and I'm sure that's also the case down in Florida. I guess some 850,000 homes still without power there as of yesterday morning. But the damages. The damage report, I think there's like over 70 casualties by this point, fatalities that are being reported. So we pray for the repose of their souls. Hurricane Harvey was a $190 billion event. And having lived through it firsthand, we talked about this last week, the piles of debris in front of entire neighborhoods for a year made it look like a war zone. As of right now, Hurricane Ian is on track to cause $210 billion of damage. That's a big deal. Now, you evacuated. Is that the case?
It is, yeah. We, my wife and I were sitting there on Sunday night and looking at the data. At about 10:30 p.m., the kids were already in bed and fast asleep. And we're just looking at the models and thinking, hey, there's a 10% chance this thing could swing in our direction and come right at us. And then, kind of looking at some of the footage of what a hurricane Category 4, Category 5 can do, just assessing it all, discerning it all pretty quickly in the moment. And we said, all right, let's gather the stuff from outside, bring it up, and let's secure what we can, and let's grab the essentials, and let's wake the kids up and try to get in the car by 2 a.m. so we can start to go north, hopefully before we basically looked at it like this is probably our last chance to evacuate before the highways get crowded with folks. So because we're pretty far down south into the state in the Fort Myers area. And yeah, folks in Florida, they are used to riding it out. And so even with evacuation calls and everything else, most people, they've been through this so many times, and the probabilities are, 90%, 80% chance it's going to go and hit another direction. So folks tend to ride it out until the last minute, and then people are evacuating, and then they're on the roads, and they get stuck on the roads, and it's a mess. But for us, we've lived in different parts of Florida, and this was the closest call that we've had, and basically, just assessing the data by God's grace. it made sense to get out of there. And it was good we did. Not much damage to the home as far as we can tell from pictures we've gotten. But yeah, we're still without power down there in Lee County, as are so many others. And that's got to be extremely difficult for families, especially with a lot of young children going through this time with no power down there in the heat of Florida.
When do you plan to go back? Once the power comes back on?
We're looking at it. We're assessing it. A big thing is a lot of the roads are still closed. A lot of the flooding is still in place. And so we're kind of all waiting for the waters to go down from some of the rivers that have overflowed and everything else. So you got the storm surge, and then you got a whole lot of water that was dumped by the rain. And so I'm waiting a little bit to see how the roads can get cleared off here. And power is a big part of it. But we also have a great hybrid homeschool hybrid school, the Regina Chaley Academy. I know it's in Texas as well. And so they get started back up again Monday morning. So we'd love to have the kids back and plugged in for that. So we're trying to make our way back.
All right, we'll be praying for all of that. Let's turn to the Boston Men's March, which is coming up October the 15th, 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. in Boston, Massachusetts. But let me start it this way. You and I have a mutual friend, Mark Houck from the King's Men Apostolate. We've known him for years, you and I. And how did you take the news that he was arrested by FBI raid on his home just over a week ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's alarming news in one sense, as so much of what we see nowadays is that this is actually where we're at. And in another sense, it's not all that surprising, based on what we've seen, the capacity of the Biden administration and the direction of the Justice Department under the Biden administration. So yeah, I mean, we all have to be aware of what's going on. Absolutely horrible to see what they did to Mark and his wife and their kids, their family. So certainly, prayers for the Houck family, and we want to certainly be supportive to folks that are sacrificing in this time where we have this ongoing daily mass murder of the preborn, and we have an administration that wants to push it to the full extreme, and not only wants everybody to accept it along with full taxpayer funding, as extreme as they possibly can be with it. But look, there's a lot of signs, and we're seeing this come down from a lot of their rhetoric. They also want to co-opt our pulpits and tell us, hey, abortion is an act of charity. This is love of neighbor. And Gavin Newsom putting billboards in pro-life states now saying, come to California, and quoting the Gospel of Mark and saying this is about loving your neighbor.
Right.
I mean, these people are sick and depraved, and they're capable of anything. And so we have to be prepared for that, but we do have to step up and do what we're called to do. And Mark's a great example for us as men and as all people to face the reality and then to try to step in with the love of God and do what we're called to do.
Mr. Havens, it seems as if, right after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, the federal government came out and was looking at a way to enshrine it on a federal level. And now it seems that they're trying to chastise the pro-lifers by coming after them. We say it, it's almost as if we're beating a dead horse here, but where are the arrests of all of the people who are attacking pro-life clinics versus, to juxtapose it to Mark Houck and Father Fidelis and all these other people who most of the time are peacefully protesting at abortion centers. Now they're being intimidated into not doing something like that. Is the Men's March going to change the way it does things, just so that to avoid any of these unwanted encounters with alphabet agencies?
We're really not going to change a thing in terms of calling men to gather together and take action out of love of God and love of neighbor. The facts are so clear. We all have to face reality on this. I mean, life begins at conception, fertilization. We were all that size once. They're dehumanizing our little brothers and sisters in the womb and murdering them by the thousands every day. So we've got to face reality and say, okay, Lord, what are you calling us to do? And when we look at the Gospel of Matthew, he said, whatever you do to the least of these, you did it unto me. We need to stand up for them. And so that's what we're calling on men to come together and do in Boston, October 15th, at themensmarch.com for more information. And so, yeah, we try to do absolutely everything right and diligent in all of our preparations. So we've got our necessary permits through the city of Boston, which was a big bureaucracy, the biggest one we've ever had to navigate. But we've got assurances from the local police department there that they're going to keep everybody safe. We do expect that there will be some counter-protest Antifa types and all of that. And, again, we're going to stand up and do what's right out of love of God and neighbor, and it reveals an awful lot around us when we do that. So we've got to notice what it reveals, but we got to continue to persevere and do what we're called to do in authentic love.
Amen. You know, I know you spend a lot of time praying in front of abortion clinics, and you even brought your family to them as well. It's an important witness to have your kids see that this is a task that men must face. Good men must face this evil. But nonetheless, are you ever concerned about their safety, given how crazy some of these abortion volunteers tend to act?
Not really, because of the sense that I see the priority here is a priority of formation. And we've got to transmit the truth to our young people. And if you're a father of a family, we've got to raise our children up to be the warriors of love that they are called to be, especially in this time. They've got to see through all the lies and deception. And a lot of that can be taught very, very readily and easily outside of an abortion killing center. And so, we face all kinds of different backlash out there, but we've also helped a lot of people. And so we're going to continue to stand up. And I think you should invite your children to come with you and have those conversations and use it as a tool for formation. So it's not like I'm just like forcing them to come with me or anything. This is an ongoing formation. And imagine the lessons you can teach your kids about, to love those who are persecuting you, love of enemies, and also just, again, the gospel of Matthew 25, to love the least of these out of love of Jesus. And so there's many, many lessons to teach, good lessons. I want to encourage fathers to step up and be the men they're called to be. A lot of teaching opportunities outside an abortion killing center. But it's not just there. It has to be part of the whole package. So get your faith right and get stronger and stronger by God's grace. Come together with other like-minded men, and it's going to be good.
You think, we have just about 30 seconds here before we have to go to break, but do you think these abortion escort volunteers, their tactic is to intimidate in order to get less people to come out?
Sure. Yeah, that's part of it. They want to disrupt, and they want to make it as uncomfortable an experience as possible for people out there. So there's all kinds of different tactics I've seen. And to witness to God's love of them in the midst of it. We're there to rescue them as well by God's grace.
Amen. Hold that thought.
We're reaching out to them in love in the midst of it.
Let's talk about the specifics of the Boston Men's March. I think when you guys first started this, it was once a year, but it seems like you're tackling more events per year now. Tell me about the pace and the goals that you have set for the National Men's March.
Our goal is really just to do God's will. So that's really it. It's an ongoing prayerful discernment to figure out, what he is calling us to do and to participate in that. So that first event we did in DC last year, we did that and not knowing if we would ever even do a second event or if it would be an annual event or whatever. And we've done 2 since then, national events. And now on to Boston, on to Baltimore, again in front of the USCCB meeting in November 14th. Again, all the details for all of this you can find at themensmarch.com. Sign up for the email updates. Join us on these marches. There's a core group of men, a good, solid core group of men that come to every single event that we do. And the camaraderie is growing. The strengthening is growing. And certainly the local men that come to each march in each area that we go to, very, very important. We're providing an opportunity by God's grace for men to step up. It's a call to everybody who hears this call, and whoever steps up, I guarantee you will be blessed by it and will be a great blessing to others. Our goal is to do God's will, and we're going to continue to keep discerning this as we go forward. But we do believe we are called to do more of this in the coming year, 2023. And we're already praying and trying to do some planning for what comes next year.
Now, I was able to participate in the Baltimore one last year. Great event, wonderful turnout. It was fantastic. There was one abortion volunteer harassing everybody, making sure we cleared the sidewalk. But other than that, it was just wonderful. This one in Boston, October the 15th, where are you meeting? What's the format for this one?
Yeah, there's a Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth in Boston. So it's about a little over 3 miles from where we're going to be marching to, which is outside of the Massachusetts State House. And so we're going to gather at that abortion killing center. We're going to do that a little over 3 miles march. And then we're going to have a rally for personhood outside of the State House. The vision is that the men gather outside of the abortion center. And then we want the women and children and boys, certainly fathers and sons, we encourage them to march together to show up at the abortion killing center together. But then everybody to join us at the rally point outside of the Massachusetts State House, where we're going to have some great featured speakers and just try to encourage everybody to see the reality and to take responsibility for our role in this reality that we are in, and to repent and make a new resolve to do more. We have gotten a lot of backlash from the Archdiocese of Boston,
Oh, no.
which again is one of those things where, in one sense, it's surprising. You can't believe you're seeing this, but on another sense, in the time that we are in, it's rather unsurprising too. So sad to see it, but yeah, men need to answer the call regardless of whatever corrupt leaders are going to try to sway you otherwise.
Well, and one of the things I've always thought was pretty special about what you guys are doing here is the dress code. You want men in suits. You want priests and clerics. Why do you do that?
We just want to have a professional, united front. And when we looked at what Martin Luther King Jr. was doing in his nonviolent marches, they looked good. They were dressed and dressed up. The men were in suits. The priests were in clerics. So we basically are just trying to follow that model. And certainly there's a united theme on that front where they were fighting against an unjust law that ours, the one we're fighting against, is even worse. Theirs was certainly degrading the value of human life in many ways. Ours is to the point where actually mass murdering those human lives that they're trying to dehumanize and confuse people about by the thousands every day. So just to get some perspective on this, and this is, I think, the key point for all of us all the time, is we're soaking in this, so it's hard to have an adequate perspective. If you're a historian looking back on this 100 years from now, if there's such a time as 100 years from now, looking back on it, think about how you would think about this barbaric time, where it's being encouraged that it's an act of charity to murder your child, and it's happening by the thousands every day, and the bishops are largely silent and passive on it, which is the biggest problem of all, because then the politicians basically have a free pass. Nobody's calling them to account. The bishops are supposed to be the moral voice for humanity. Mm-hmm. And so that also affects us as laymen to understand that moral voice is weak and passive and not doing their job. So therefore, we have to see through that and be roused all the more by reading the words of Jesus, reading the truths of the church teachings, and saying, okay, even in that case, I am called with great love to step up into the breach here and to stand up for my little brothers and sisters in the womb. So if it was, it's basically just, again, one more point of perspective. It's a 9/11 every day. If 9/11 were going on every day and 3,000 people were being murdered by terrorists every single day, I think it'd be in the news a bit more. I think we'd be a little bit more fired up to step up and do something about it. Well, that is going on. These are true human beings, human persons in the womb, our littlest brothers and sisters. They need us. We've got to get the ball rolling, men, and that's what the Men's March is about. So get there if you can. Certainly pray for it. And themensmarch.com is where all the information is.
Jim, we have about 2 minutes left in our conversation. And one thing that I noticed that just going to rosary rallies and doing marches like this is the fact that there are so many men out there who love to talk about these issues. They agree with us. They will talk about it at the water cooler, at the family gatherings, but then they actually never show up to actually do anything. They don't go to rosary rallies. They don't go to marches. They don't do any of these public acts of reparation. Could you speak about that a little bit? And we have about a minute left in our conversation.
Yeah, it's just a lack of integrity. And we got to start with ourselves and examine our own consciences every day, as we ought to be doing. And when we do that, look, what is the right response when they're murdering thousands of people every day and trying to tell you that it's okay? What is the right response? You can think about what would a faithful Catholic in Hitler's Germany do when you can smell the stench of the death in your backyard? Okay, we've got to rouse our consciences to the reality that is before us. And then, bring it to God and use your reason and think about it. What are we called to do in this time? What does authentic love call us to do? We have to regain what it means to be a real man. And that is authentic love. It's not about some, pumped up version of manhood. It is a real masculine strength that is applied to sacrificial love of those that are most in need. Men, we've got to live our vocations to the full. And that's just not enough. We can't just care about our own families. Again, people are being murdered by the thousands. Let's rally together and do what we need you.
All right. We are out of time. Jim Havens hosts The Simple Truth, 4 p.m. Eastern. It's 4 p.m. Is it Eastern or Central Time? Eastern. All right. On the Station of the Cross. God bless you, Jim. Go to themensmarch.com, themensmarch.com. We'll be right back.